My name is Harper Williams, and I'm 22 years old. This story takes place exactly 1 week before I was set to graduate from Harvard Business School. I called my parents to confirm the final details for my graduation ceremony. My father's voice was as cold and businesslike as always. "We can't make it to your graduation." For a moment, I thought the call had dropped. "Just take the bus. We're buying Cassandra a Bentley." In that instant, my life changed forever. Cassandra was just a high school graduate. My parents were giving my 18-year-old sister a $300,000 luxury car. Meanwhile, they suggested public transportation for their daughter graduating from Harvard. In that moment, the unfairness I'd felt for years ignited like a flame in my chest. But I had no idea what was coming. 1 week later, I would leave my father trembling on that graduation stage. When they discovered my true worth, their complete transformation would be almost comical to witness. If you were in my position, what would you do? When your own family consistently undervalues you, how would you fight back? Please share your thoughts in the comments. And don't miss the unbelievable twist that's coming next. I grew up in a mansion in Connecticut. Until age 4, I basked in my parents' undivided attention. But the moment my sister Cassandra was born, everything changed. My father Robert was CFO of a major corporation. My mother Elizabeth was a neurologist at a prestigious Boston hospital. Both were perfectionists who believed that nothing less than success had any value. For my 8th birthday, I received educational books. 2 months later, for Cassandra's 4th birthday, she got a pony party in the backyard. This disparity became the defining moment of my life. Harper is the big sister. She needs to be responsible. My mother's words bound me like a spell. Family vacations always prioritize Cassandra's wishes. When I mentioned wanting to attend science camp, my mother patted my head and smiled coldly. "Maybe next year, Harper." Next year never came. The academic disparity was obvious too. When I brought home straight A's, it was expected. When Cassandra earned B's and C's, she received enthusiastic praise for trying so hard. We lived in the same house, but we were inhabitants of different worlds. During high school, I was desperate. Student body president, newspaper editor, every AP class available. I studied until midnight and spent weekends at the library. All of it driven by one desire: to earn my parents' recognition. In my senior year, I was selected as valedictorian. It was the culmination of 4 years of blood, sweat, and tears. Graduation was scheduled for a Tuesday evening in May. When I told my parents the date, my mother's face darkened. "Oh dear, that's Cassandra's piano recital. She's been practicing for months. You understand, don't you?" I nodded automatically. It was the result of 18 years of conditioning. I stood alone on that stage as valedictorian. I delivered my speech while scanning the audience for my parents' faces. That night, I made a decision. I would never expect anything from them again. I received a partial scholarship to Harvard, but I had to cover living expenses myself. My parents mentioned they would consider financial support, but I never asked. Not out of pride, but because I couldn't bear another disappointment. During the summer, I worked 3 jobs. Coffee shop in the morning, office work during the day, tutoring at night. I saved every penny. In August, I headed to Cambridge with 2 suitcases. When my parents offered to drive me, I shook my head. "I'm fine." My mother looked concerned. "Do you have enough for tuition?" "I have my savings." My father looked up from his newspaper. "College is expensive. Don't waste money." That was my send-off. Meanwhile, Cassandra received a complete wardrobe makeover and a MacBook Pro just for starting high school. My 4 years at Harvard were hell. Full-time classes plus 3 part-time jobs. Library, food delivery, retail. Sleep became a luxury. I lived in the smallest dorm room available. I ate ramen every night and attended free campus events for meals. That's where I met Jessica Rodriguez. She came from a single mother household in Arizona. She was also working multiple jobs to pay for school. We became each other's support system. We split textbook costs and cooked cheap meals together. "Why don't your parents help you at all?" Jessica asked one night while highlighting used textbooks. "They obviously have money." I shrugged. "They believe in the importance of independence." "That's not independence." Jessica's voice shook with anger. "That's neglect. They buy your sister designer clothes and new cars." Hearing someone else call it neglect for the first time, something inside me crumbled. During sophomore year, I met Jake Thornton in economics class. He came from a wealthy New York family and was charming and intelligent. For a while, I thought I'd found someone who truly understood me. Jake was kind. He constantly invited me to expensive restaurants and weekend trips. But my pride got in the way. I stubbornly insisted on paying my own share. I picked up extra shifts to afford it. "Just let me handle it." Jake grew frustrated when I insisted on splitting date expenses. "Ask your parents for help." "Why are you being so stubborn?" No matter how much I explained, he never understood. When he surprised me with plane tickets to Paris for spring break, I had to decline. I already had work shifts scheduled. He called me stubborn and ungrateful. We broke up that night. Another wound added to my growing list. Junior year, Professor Wilson's fintech class changed my life. After I submitted a report on digital payment systems, she pulled me aside. "This is graduate-level work, Harper. Have you ever considered a career in fintech?" Professor Wilson was the adult mentor I'd been craving. She recommended books, introduced me to industry contacts, and most importantly, she believed in my potential. Under her guidance, I entered the world of cryptocurrency and blockchain technology. This was 2019, when Bitcoin was recovering from its crash, but still wasn't mainstream. I became fascinated by the potential of digital currency. I spent countless hours in the library learning programming. I developed solutions to security problems that plagued early cryptocurrency platforms. By the end of junior year, my academic interest had evolved into a concrete business idea. I envisioned a platform that would make cryptocurrency trading as safe and accessible as traditional banking. "This addresses a real gap in the market," Professor Wilson said. "If executed properly, this could be significant." For the first time in my life, I felt purpose beyond mere survival. I'd found something I was passionate about, something I could control completely independent of my relationship with my parents. The summer before senior year, I devoted everything to developing my business idea. While my classmates interned at prestigious companies or traveled, I was coding and refining business plans. I shared a cramped apartment with Jessica. My concept evolved into SecurePay, a platform that would make cryptocurrency trading as simple and safe as traditional banking. I learned about Harvard Business School's annual startup competition. They provided funding to promising student ventures. Professor Wilson encouraged me to participate. After competing against over 100 student ventures, I couldn't believe it when SecurePay won. The prize was $50,000 plus office space at the University Innovation Center. It was the biggest support I'd ever received. Not from family, but from people who recognized the value of my ideas. This victory caught the attention of several angel investors, including Michael Chen, a successful tech entrepreneur who had made his fortune in early social media. "I'll be direct," he said over lunch. "I want to buy your entire concept for $2 million. Right now. You can focus on your degree worry-free, and I'll take it from there." It was a tempting offer. $2 million would pay off my student loans. I could afford comfortable housing and wouldn't need multiple jobs. But something held me back. "Thank you, but I'm not interested in selling. I believe in what I'm building. I want to see it through to the end." The next day, Michael called again. This time, he proposed investing $500,000 for a 15% stake in SecurePay. This time, I accepted. With his investment, I officially incorporated the company. I hired a small team and accelerated development. The following months were the most challenging and exhilarating of my life. The company grew rapidly. In March, we completed our proprietary security algorithm. It enabled cryptocurrency trading that was 30% faster than existing platforms, all while maintaining bank-level security. Through Michael's connections, I met with top venture capital firms in Boston and New York. We secured a $50 million funding round at a $700 million company valuation. As graduation approached, SecurePay had grown to a team of 30. We launched our beta version to select users and received overwhelmingly positive feedback. The company's value exceeded $1 billion. In startup terms, we were a unicorn. I had become a billionaire at age 22. Despite these incredible developments, I maintained my Harvard routine. I completed all my coursework and prepared for graduation. Only a handful of people knew about my company's success. I preferred it that way. 3 weeks before graduation, I mailed formal invitations to my parents and Cassandra. I included ceremony tickets and a handwritten note. I explained how important it was to have them there. Tuesday evening, as I was leaving the SecurePay office, my father called. Seeing his name on my screen triggered my usual anxiety. "Good evening, Dad, Harper," he replied in his typical businesslike tone. "I received your graduation invitation. Yes, I hope you can make it." I heard my mother's voice in the background, asking who was calling. "It's Harper," my father told her, then returned to our conversation. "That weekend doesn't work for us." My heart sank. "What conflicts do you have?" "Cassandra's high school graduation is the same week. We have several celebration plans. We don't have time to drive to Cambridge. Cassandra's graduation is Thursday, mine is Saturday. You should be able to attend both. We're taking her to New York that weekend for a graduation shopping trip. We've had these plans for months." I gripped the phone tighter. I sent the invitation the moment they became available. "This is my Harvard graduation, Dad. It's a big deal." "Of course it is." His tone softened slightly. "We're proud of you. You've always been so independent. You'll be fine handling this on your own." Then he spoke the words that would be burned into my memory forever. "Just take the bus to graduation. We're buying Cassandra a Bentley." I nearly dropped the phone. "A Bentley? She's only 18. She worked hard and got into UCLA. We want to celebrate her achievement." The irony was almost laughable. Cassandra had gotten into UCLA with a 3.2 GPA and legacy preference. My father was an alumnus. Meanwhile, I had graduated valedictorian from prep school. I got into Harvard on merit alone. I maintained a perfect 4.0 while building a company, all without their support. "I understand," I managed to say. "You've always been such a responsible child, Harper." My mother joined on speakerphone. "We never worry about you." Their words were meant as compliments. But to me, they sounded like an indictment of years of conditional love. I was neglected because I was capable. Cassandra was lavishly rewarded for meeting basic expectations. After hanging up, I stood frozen on the sidewalk outside the office building. 10 minutes later, Jessica found me. "What happened?" She immediately read my expression. I recounted the conversation in a hollow voice. "They're buying Cassandra a Bentley and telling me to take the bus." "A Bentley, Jessica. Just for getting into college. They don't deserve to be there." Jessica wrapped her arms around me. "We're your family. The SecurePay team, Professor Wilson, me. We'll cheer louder than anyone for you." 2 days before graduation, I received an urgent meeting request from the Harvard Business School dean. Worried there might be an issue with my degree, I immediately went to his office. "Miss Williams," Dean Harrison welcomed me warmly. "Sorry for the short notice. Is there a problem with my graduation eligibility? He smiled. Quite the opposite. Wonderful news. Forbes magazine contacted us. You've been selected for their 30 under 30 list. You're being featured in the next issue as the youngest self-made female billionaire in technology. My eyes widened in surprise. I had hoped to keep this information quiet a bit longer. I understand you value privacy, but this is an extraordinary achievement that brings great honor to Harvard Business School. If you'll allow it, we'd like to recognize this accomplishment at graduation. My first instinct was to decline. I was used to succeeding quietly, but I thought about my parents sitting in the audience. They would be sitting there unaware of what I'd built. They'd be ready to leave immediately after the ceremony to get back to Cassandra's celebrations. What specifically would that involve? Just a brief mention when we introduce you as valedictorian. Nothing that would make you uncomfortable. After thinking for a moment, I nodded. That would be fine. As I left his office, I received a text from Cassandra. Surprise! Mom and Dad decided to come to your graduation after all. See you Saturday. I stared at the message, feeling mixed emotions. After this last-minute change of heart, they had decided to come. But I knew it wasn't because they suddenly understood the importance of my graduation. There was another motive, though I couldn't imagine what it was. Graduation day dawned bright and clear. It was a perfect May morning. Cambridge looked like a postcard. I stood in front of my mirror, carefully adjusting my cap and arranging my gown over my dress. Even knowing my parents would attend, I kept my original plan to take the bus to campus. It felt symbolically important. It reminded me of the journey I'd traveled almost entirely alone. The early Saturday morning public bus was nearly empty. I sat by the window, watching familiar streets go by. I reflected on how far I'd come in the 4 years since arriving as a freshman. When I arrived at Harvard Yard, the transformation was magnificent. White chairs lined the lawn. Crimson banners hung from every available space. Families were already gathering, taking photos, and embracing graduates. I searched the crowd for my family. I found them near the registration table. My father in his usual dark suit, my mother elegant in a pale blue dress. Cassandra looked bored, scrolling through her phone. They hadn't noticed me yet. I realized I was seeing them with new eyes. They hadn't changed at all, but I had become a completely different person. I took a deep breath and approached. As you advised, Dad, I took the bus. My mother turned and brightened with a practiced smile. Harper, you look ready to graduate. We shared a brief hug. Her expensive perfume enveloped me for a moment. My father offered a firm handshake instead of an embrace. Traffic was better than expected. Your mother insisted we leave at dawn. Cassandra finally looked up from her phone. Congratulations, sis. Can you believe I got woken up at 5 a.m.? For this, I'm grateful you came. Despite everything, I meant it. A small part of me was still that little girl who wanted their approval. We wouldn't miss it, my mother said. But we both knew that until recently, their plan had been exactly that. The ceremony began with all the pageantry and tradition Harvard was known for. We processed to pomp and circumstance. We took our seats under the warm sunshine and listened to opening remarks from university officials. As valedictorian, I was scheduled to give a brief speech after receiving my degree. I had prepared it weeks ago, but made significant revisions the night before. Dean Harrison approached the podium for degree conferment. Business school graduates were called first. Special recognition was given to those with highest honors. When my turn came, I stood from my seat. I walked toward the stage, conscious of hundreds of eyes following my steps. Harper Williams, Dean Harrison announced, highest honors in business administration, valedictorian. I walked to center stage, shook his hand, and received my diploma. I expected him to continue to the next name. Instead, he kept holding the microphone. Ladies and gentlemen, he continued, Miss Williams is not only our valedictorian. I have the special honor of announcing that she has been recognized by Forbes magazine. She is this year's youngest self-made billionaire graduate. She founded SecurePay, a financial technology company revolutionizing cryptocurrency trading. A collective gasp rose from the audience, followed by thunderous applause. I glanced toward where my family sat. My father had literally dropped his program. Pages were scattered at his feet. My mother sat frozen, hand covering her mouth. Cassandra was staring at me with her jaw open. For the first time, she was completely disconnected from her phone. The dean gestured toward the podium. As applause continued, I adjusted the microphone and unfolded my speech. I looked out at the sea of faces. I found Jessica and Professor Wilson in the front row, beaming with pride. My family remained in their seats, stunned. My father was gathering his dropped program with shaking hands. 4 years ago, I began. Many of us arrived at Harvard with dreams, ambitions, and no small amount of fear about the unknown. We came from different backgrounds, different resources, different support systems. But we shared a common goal: to learn, to grow, and ultimately to make our mark on the world. I continued with my prepared words about challenges, innovation, and finding purpose. I didn't directly mention my parents' lack of support or the struggles I'd endured. This moment was about celebration, not revenge. Success isn't measured by the accolades we receive or the wealth we accumulate, I said near the conclusion. It's measured by the obstacles we overcome and the people we become in the process. Each of us graduating today has a unique story of challenges we faced and conquered. My story happened to include building a company between classes. I discovered I was capable of far more than I'd ever been led to believe. As I finished with thunderous applause, I felt certain. My worth wasn't determined by others' opinions, but by what I had built myself. I could see my classmates rising to their feet. Many of them had known nothing about my company or its success until today. They only knew me as the quiet, hardworking student who rarely appeared at social events. Someone who was always working. Their faces showed not just applause, but newfound respect. As I returned to my seat, my heart was pounding. The final graduates received their degrees. After the closing remarks, we joyfully threw our caps into the air. Surrounded by falling caps and celebrating classmates, I felt complete. It had nothing to do with my family's presence or approval. As graduates and families began mingling on the lawn, I was immediately surrounded by classmates. They offered congratulations and asked questions about SecurePay. Professors I'd studied under came to shake my hand. Some admitted they had no idea I'd been building a billion-dollar company while excelling in their courses. Through the crowd, I could see my family trying to cut a path toward me. My father wore a look of determination. He was pushing past other families with unusual urgency. My mother followed, her expression mixing confusion and calculation. Cassandra trailed behind, looking at me with something resembling admiration for the first time. I interrupted a conversation with a venture capitalist to turn and face them. I wasn't sure what to expect, but I felt strangely calm. I had proven beyond any doubt that I would be okay no matter what happened. When my parents finally reached me through the crowd, the contrast between our last phone conversation and their current attitude couldn't have been more stark. My father, who had coldly told me to take the bus just days ago, now spread his arms for an embrace. He wore a broad smile I'd rarely seen directed at me. "Harper," he shouted loud enough for nearby people to hear. "Why didn't you tell us about the company? A billion-dollar valuation? This is extraordinary." I stiffly accepted his embrace. "I didn't think it was relevant to our conversation," I replied calmly. "You've always been focused on Cassandra's achievements." Next, my mother stepped forward, wearing her social smile like armor. "Darling, we're so proud of you. We want to celebrate your success. Perhaps dinner together. I already have plans tonight. With the people who supported me." My father's expression hardened. Family comes first. Exactly, I replied quietly. That's why I'm spending time with my real family. Several of my classmates were still nearby, obviously interested in the family dynamics unfolding before them. I could see Jessica approaching. Her expression was concerned. She'd heard enough about my parents to recognize when I might need backup. Mr. and Mrs. Williams. Jessica joined us, extending her hand. I'm Jessica Rodriguez, Harper's friend and current Chief Operating Officer of Secure Pay. Your daughter is the most brilliant person I've ever met. You must be thrilled to have raised such an innovator. My father automatically shook her hand, his business instincts kicking in. Of course, we're delighted. The Williams family has a tradition of excellence. Cassandra, who had been unusually quiet throughout, finally spoke up. Is it really true? You're a billionaire? There was no jealousy in her question. Just pure curiosity, and perhaps a hint of awe. For the first time, I wondered if Cassandra had been trapped in my parents' dynamics just as much as I had been. Maybe she'd been pushed into the favored child role the same way I'd been pushed into being overlooked. On paper, yes, I answered her directly. The company is valued at just over $1 billion, and I retain majority ownership. That's really cool, she said genuinely. I always knew you were smart, but this is next level. Her straightforward praise felt more genuine than my parents' elaborate compliments. I smiled at her. This time, it was a real smile. My father cleared his throat. There's a lot to discuss about your future, Harper. As your father, I can provide valuable insights into managing wealth and business growth. I looked him directly in the eye. For perhaps the first time, I could clearly see the insecurity behind his domineering personality. Dad, I've done perfectly fine without your insights for 4 years. My company has excellent financial advisors, a strong board, and dedicated team members. What I wanted today was simply for my family to be proud of my Harvard graduation. Not what I'd built or how much money I'd made. Just completing this chapter of my education. My mother placed a restraining hand on my father's arm. Of course we're proud of your graduation, Harper, she said smoothly. The business success is just an added bonus. Is it? I asked quietly. Because when it was just the Harvard graduation, you were going to skip it entirely for a shopping trip to New York. An uncomfortable silence fell over our group. Several nearby families had stopped pretending they weren't listening. Cassandra unexpectedly broke the tension. Instead of dinner with Mom and Dad, could I come to your party? She asked. I want to hear more about your company. And honestly, I'm tired of always being the center of attention. It's exhausting trying to meet expectations. Her frank confession surprised me. Perhaps my sister was more aware than I'd given her credit for. I'd love to have you join us, I told her. Jessica, Professor Wilson, and the Secure Pay team would love to meet you. My father frowned. Cassandra, we made family plans. For the first time in her life, my sister stood up to our parents. I want to spend time with Harper. You two can go to dinner without me. I should go, I said, spotting more of my team members arriving at the edge of the lawn. My guests are waiting. Cassandra, if you want to join us later, we'll be at the Charles Hotel rooftop. As I started to walk away, my mother called after me. Harper, we're still your parents. We deserve to be part of your success. I stopped and turned back to them. If you want to be part of my life going forward, that's possible. But it will have to be on different terms. I'm not the desperate little girl seeking your approval anymore. I know my own worth now. With those words, I walked away to join the people who had truly supported me. I left my parents standing in the dispersing crowd. For the first time, they were watching me walk away instead of the other way around. 1 year after graduation, I stood in my Manhattan penthouse watching the sunset. The Forbes magazine cover reflected in the glass reminded me of the journey I'd traveled. Secure Pay had grown beyond my wildest imagination. 5 million users, $50 billion valuation, teams of 200 people across New York, San Francisco, and London. But the real change was internal. Sometimes old wounds still ached on certain nights. But Dr. Lawson had taught me something important. Some parents can't see their children as separate individuals. That's their limitation. The biggest surprise was my relationship with Cassandra. After seeing the respect my team showed me at my graduation celebration, she changed. "I never wanted the Bentley," she confessed later. "I just wanted them to look at me the way they looked at you when you brought home perfect report cards." The sister I thought was favored had actually been struggling for approval too. When she decided to turn down UCLA for marine conservation work in Hawaii, she said, "I want to try the Harper approach." Now Cassandra lives in my penthouse and works for the Secure Pay Foundation. We donate 10% of our profits to provide scholarships for students in situations like mine. Jessica oversees the foundation as co. Professor Wilson serves as our advisor. My relationship with my parents remains complicated. They desperately try to associate themselves with my success, but I maintain clear boundaries. We talk occasionally by phone and have brief visits during holidays. The most important thing I learned is this: true strength doesn't come from others' approval. It comes from knowing your own capabilities. Every time my parents overlooked me, they unknowingly built my resilience. As the city lights began to twinkle, Cassandra entered the living room. The foundation board approved 5 new scholarship recipients, including a girl from Arizona who reminds me of you. She's working 3 jobs to save for college. I smiled. Let's send her a car so she doesn't have to take the bus to graduation. Or maybe a Bentley. Our laughter was the sound of healing, the sound of turning pain into purpose, of reclaiming our own stories. I found my own path. I built my own success. I created a family that celebrates my light. The journey isn't over, but I'm not alone anymore. True family isn't about blood relations. It's about the people who help your light shine brighter. Have you ever been overlooked by the people who should be your biggest supporters? Or have you found your chosen family who truly values you for who you are? Share your experiences in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please share it with someone who needs to know their worth isn't determined by others' recognition. Thank you for listening to my journey. And remember, sometimes the greatest success comes from believing in yourself when no one else will.